Adam Bierman, Breezin with Bierman. It's January, a new year. I'm wearing a tie. Hi, you're Sandra Jordan, right?
Yes.
I think I know you. And I'm very excited. We're getting Princeton subject this month. Lauren Lepre, the great Lauren Lepre. Why do I get better ratings? 2 words, Lauren Lepre. And maybe me, because I'm smart enough to let him be on the show. Anyway, he's busy. It's Christmas. He's doing his things in Philadelphia. And we have 2 guests today. We have, can you pronounce her name?
Okay, I can pronounce the first name for sure. The last name, Veronique Cardon.
No. In fact, I'm using my maiden name.
Cardon.
Because my married name is so unpronounceable that very early in my career I decided to use my maiden name, which is Cardon.
Cardon.
So,
And how do you
yes,
pronounce
in French, Tastenois.
Tazelaar?
In America, Tastenoy.
That's how we. That's how I
Yes,
learned.
yes.
Maybe he said it that way.
Yes.
I didn't know that Detroit with Detroit. Oh, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Anyway,
so
getting back. And then there are
Veronique
Be quiet.
Cardon.
Be quiet.
No, Veronique Cardon,
Don't be serious.
author of the CogniDiet book,
And then
and a lot of other things.
Then we're also going to have in the second segment Jennifer Weiss, whose father, she thinks we'll find out, is the famous serial killer, the Times Square butcher, Richard Cottingham, and the person she partnered with, Peter Vronsky, who wrote a book, The Sons of Cain, but we're getting to them next. And now I'll let my wife, I shouldn't have said that, but she is my wife, but usually she's Sandra Jordan, take the lead. She's the one who got this guest. We're very lucky to have Veronique Cardon.
Veronique Cardon. Okay, yes. So as I was saying, well, let's start with asking you a few questions for the audience to get to know you. So you've been here, you said, for almost 25 years,
Yes.
coming from Normandy.
Yeah, coming from Normandy and Belgium because I was working and living in Belgium in Brussels. But yes, originally from Normandy and France. Yes.
And currently you have a place where you meet your clients to talk about all these science of well-being.
Yeah, I mean, I had a change of career in 2013, and I decided to veer from being a pharmaceutical executive, which has a lot to do with health, which was very useful, to gaining a master's degree in nutrition and then to help people eat better for their health. But most of the people who come to see you come for weight loss.
And the book that you have published, we have here, the CogniDiet.
Weight loss starts in your brain.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yes. Okay. Well, so let me say a little bit about myself because
Yes.
that will explain why did she go with the CogniDiet and the brain. First of all, I'm a nerd. I'm an engineer by training. But a few years ago in 2006, I really went through a very serious, severe depression and anxiety episode. I fell apart after years and years of extreme stress.
High-powered pharmaceutical person in New York.
High-level job, commuting to New York, which if you commute sometime to New York, you know how hard it is.
16-hour days,
It is
work.
Yes. Very ambitious and very committed and so forth, and not willing to listen to the signs of my body. So, as my doctor said, I broke my brain at one point. And this is when I started to say, okay, I have to heal my brain. It's like a muscle that needs love and attention. You go for physical therapy when you break your leg. So what can I do to heal my brain?
Yes.
So with the help of my doctors and pharmaceutical products, I have to say, I started to run like every day, but I also started to learn meditation. And it really helped heal my brain, and certainly in many ways, because my ability to sustain stress now, to live without medication, to start a business, which is in its own way is very stressful. But I haven't had a panic attack since 2006. This is like 12 years now. So I became absolutely certain that I was able to really change my brain.
It says here, though, you would gain 25 to 30 pounds, increased cholesterol, constant fatigue, diagnosis of ovarian cancer, this stressful
Oh yeah,
job.
yeah. I was also not taking care of myself the way I should have taken care of myself. So ovarian cancer happened earlier in 2001, but that should have been a wake-up call because I was a miracle that they took everything away and I never had, any chemo or anything.
17 years now. They still watch you, but 17 years.
Yeah,
very lucky.
I was cured when they took it. I was very, very lucky because it was caught very early on.
And when you gained weight, it was because
the stress.
It was the stress, or it was also the fact that you have an hysterectomy, and that
no,
caused
I don't think it has to do with
No?
this. I think it had to do with the fact that my all my life was devoted to work and my family. And as many women, I was not paying attention to myself. I was always coming the last one. Mm-hmm. And I had a I had a culinary cultural shock when I came into the U.S. because
Because we eat garbage? No.
well, because I have this on
Huge
my
amounts.
website. You see pictures of me and my kids and my husband in front of the White House in '95. And we look we are young, we look gorgeous, right? Then you see me 5 years later, I have gained at least 20 to 30 pounds because we landed in Atlanta. So I started to eat portions that were double, triple the size.
We see in Europe.
And you don't pay attention. And drinking Coca-Cola, I had never drunk cola in my life. All those things put together.
You got caught up in the bad habits of the U.S.
Yes,
eating.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But also all the processed food, which is not natural. So that disrupts your entire, metabolic system. Mm-hmm.
And you were too busy working to really think about it.
And then you add to this the stress, because stress makes you fat, because it elevates your cortisol level, which in turn elevate your glucose level, which in fact now you can correlate elevated glucose level on a chronic basis with onset of type 2 diabetes.
Wow. So they can really make empirical evidence this is stress related.
And I say to the audience, if you feel like you really are paying attention to what you eat and you have a hard time losing weight, but you're super stressed, you have the answer. But also stress hijacks your logical brain, and when you're stressed, you also have all those physiological things going on in your body that are going to make you crave for a cookie because your brain thinks you've been fighting or flighting, when in fact you've been stuck in a boring meeting or having a very stressful discussion with somebody or being stuck in traffic. Mm-hmm. So your brain thinks this woman is a ninja. She has been fighting like a warrior. I need to give her some energy.
Right. Going back to our primeval days.
So you're going to go for sugar, for glucose. You're not going to go for salad if you're stressed.
Right.
So what I do is also with my client, I tell them it's not always you feel guilty. I don't have willpower. I'm a failure.
We see that with a lot of people,
right? I am not capable of losing weight. But then when but sometimes when you start to explain this is why this is happening to you, and there is a solution, then people say, okay. Oh, I never knew this. Wow, no, I have a solution.
There's a roadmap out of this.
Yes, there's a roadmap.
And it's not all your fault, but now we can do something about it, though,
yes,
too.
Yes,
and it's also, it also, people have to understand that it's not going to go the same way that the weight was gained in a period of time.
Yes.
The losing of the weight is going to take a period of time.
Oh, yeah, I love your question. Thank you so much, Sandra, because people have been unable to lose, let's say, 40 pounds for 20 years.
Yeah, I heard
and then they go and they say, I want to lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks. I'm exaggerating, right? Mm-hmm. But the diet industry has created those expectations. You look at the ads, with supplements, with special meals, with whatever. But I always use this analogy. In your brain, there is, let's say, an old man who is seated on a pile of golden nuggets. And all the golden nuggets are your pounds of fat. And we were engineered to retain fat to survive famine.
Right.
And it's not so long ago that we had really to fight for survival, right?
Yeah, less than 2,000 years.
Yes, exactly. So when when you take a lot of the golden nugget at once, the old man is feeling that the pile is going down and goes into alert mode. You know, red light, beep, beep, beep. I have to replenish my coffer. So you lose 25 pounds. He's going to make sure you regain 30.
That's why the biggest loser always gains back.
Yeah, well, they were even sued, yes. Yeah. They sued the show to say that they regained, because in fact what they did also is, not getting too technical, they completely destroyed their appetite control with leptin level and so forth. Right. So, but to go back to the old man, if you steal one golden nugget at one time, he will not really realize so much is going. So the only way to lose weight and to keep it off is to go slowly.
Slowly.
And I always have to say, when people come to me, I only lost 1 pound this week, I said, bravo. It's amazing that you lost 1 pound. I mean, 1 pound is still a lot of, it's a lot. And go slowly, but go surely.
But it's not only it's not only the diet. It has to always be combined with exercise.
Heart, mind, and body. She says.
Well, it's the mind, the heart, and the body. So initially, when I started as a nutritionist, I was really focused on teaching about nutrition, calories, and so forth. And I had mitigated results, but then I realized I had a couple of clients who were sticking with me and with whom I engaged in a form of cognitive behavioral therapy sessions.
CBT.
Or, you know, really rewiring their brain to think differently about food and so forth. And they got amazing results. So I decided to learn CBT. I'm not a psychotherapist.
CBT, for those, can you, what is
Cognitive behavioral therapy, which is, in fact, the definition is that, you know, our thoughts are controlling what we do. So if I think that I am ugly, the chances are that, you know, I will do nothing to look pretty, or if I'm not going to get this parking space, I'm not going to get it. You know, I want this interview. I'm going to get that job. I will survive. I will be successful.
Is that where the diary comes in? Or
yes, you have to do a lot of writing. And if you have a lot of what's called the sabotaging thoughts, like I'm a failure, I will never lose weight, this is going on in your brain. And it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think you will never succeed, you will not succeed. So, and what I do with my program is focus on all the positive. Every individual has strengths and skills and talents that you need to use to help you succeed, including in weight loss. So it's a kind of a self-discovery method.
I have never been overweight. I understand that that people are, as I was saying, they didn't get overweight, they went to bed, and the next day they are 300 pounds. It's slowly, right? It's slowly. So at the same time, I think that they have to realize you're not going to lose it that fast. It's going to be a slow process. But I think that people get a little antsy about that. And if it doesn't happen in the 2 weeks, then they say it's not going to happen. And they completely change.
That's a very American thing, too.
Yes.
They
want the instant thing.
Yeah,
the instant thing, yeah. And the exercise, too. They get enrolled in the gym. They buy the leggings and all the equipment. They go for a couple of weeks. And combined with not losing the weight that they want to lose and all that, they stop instead of thinking, maybe I have never been in the gym before, really. What about just starting 3 times a week and give myself half an hour, and half an hour. And that consistency will be more helpful than trying to be in the treadmill every day for an hour and then try to do this or that, right?
Well, this is usually what happens with New Year's resolution. You know, people people gain really 8 to 12 pounds during the holiday season, and they never really lose it. This is the number one reason why Americans are gaining weight every year. It's because you never lose what you gain at the end of the year. So. The best results I got in my clinical trial was the group that started in September, because they went over the whole holiday season.
Already
and they were totally in control. And we got excellent success. So if you can control what you're doing during the holiday season, you can control what you do the whole year long.
And is it writing what you have eaten, or
No,
what is that you put in that
Okay.
journal to help?
So what we do is a 12-week program, and it's a combination of nutritional education, exercise education, and being able every week to take stock of what worked, what didn't work, what changed, what didn't change. We start with creating a vision board, because this really comes to CBT. You know, you have to have a vision of who you want to become, and visualization is very important in this program, because that's one way also to put your brain into a positive mode. And then you have to write your goals. What I do is we don't put you on a specific diet or whatever, but based on science, we calculate the number of calories you should be eating. We have a lot of exercises. We visually look at portion, because we don't have the time to always calculate the portion, the calories. Some people like to do it, but most people don't. So being able to visualize what you have in your plate is very important. So we do a lot of that.
You actually sit there and visualize how you want your plate to
yes,
look, how you're going to
yes,
eat it.
yes. And then also understanding, you know, that calories count, but if you get your calories mostly from protein, from fat, or from carbohydrates, they're going to behave differently in your body. So you have to be careful with the way you mix it. And there are different schools of thoughts with the ketogenic diet, which is high fat, and, you know, and so forth, right? So they get the basics about what they need to know, but also give them the basic about exercise. Why do you need muscle? Muscle mass is burning 3 times more calories than fat mass. I have a special scale at the office that does your body composition, and it's always an aha moment when these people get on the scale and they realize that even if they look good sometimes, they have a 40% of body fat.
Wow.
So that is usually a pretty
A wake-up
call. So it's the quantity of what you eat, is when you eat it. Like if you don't burn your carbohydrates within like a few minutes to 2 hours when you've eaten them, it goes immediately into fat. It's becoming fat. So if you have a very high carbohydrate dinner, and then you go to sleep.
Carbohydrates like spaghetti, bread?
Yeah, like a lot of the big spaghetti with a lot of wine and add some bread.
Yeah.
Then when you go to the gym the next morning, you're going to burn the fat you accumulated the night before. I'm exaggerating, but it's almost like so. There's a lot of education. Chapter 2 is about sugar. All the things
because
sugar
everything
does to
has
you.
sugar.
Processed sugar is evil?
And sugar is sugar, okay? So,
Oh, really?
But
Sugar
it-
cane? Really? Sugar cane?
I mean, sugar cane, honey, it's better to have sugar cane and honey, but all
It's still
sugar is sugar.
It's still a fruit has
And
sugar.
what people also don't know is carbs like white bread and pasta and so forth becomes glucose in your blood as well. So it's
Right.
equal to sugar.
It's equal to sugar. Yeah.
So some people are addicted to pure sugar with the pastry, the candies, the ice cream, but some people are addicted to sugar through bread and pasta and so forth.
And now that this trend has come of these fruta bowls, and then people are thinking that they are eating only fruit, and that is a big injection of everything.
Fruit is very
And
fruit
it's
is very high in
big.
sugar, yes.
It's
And of course
big.
it's
I
big.
cannot finish that.
Yes.
And they put this kind of paste of coconut and banana and the peanut butter, and it's enormous. I think that I eat that and I won't eat until the next day
Yes.
because thank God that's how
Yes.
I am.
Yes.
If I see a plate full of food, I don't feel like eating.
That stuff was built for lumberjacks who need all those carbs
Yes.
because
Yeah.
they're cutting down trees.
I don't like
When you
to
eat
see
when you
that.
have a big load of carbohydrates or sugar, you're supposed to go, you know,
Do
to
something
work as a
strenuous.
lumberjack or
Yeah.
go running or go do something.
Or play basketball.
Otherwise, you're going to
Right.
go into a coma. I mean, a sugar coma.
Yeah, Bobby Knight, a famous
Yeah.
coach, would have his
Yeah.
team eat spaghetti before the game.
Yes.
But they were
Yeah,
going to
but
play
that
for 2
makes
hours.
sense. That
Yeah.
makes
Because
sense.
it's easy to
Yes.
digest, and then
Yes.
you're playing.
For
so
2
you're
hours.
also-
Yes.
2 hours.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we eat too much
Yeah,
that's
of
definitely.
good.
the
here.
wrong food, and then we stay on our computers all day long. So no, I mean, of course we're getting fatter.
Right,
so
right.
It's getting epidemic, though. 38% of this country is obese. Pediatric diabetes is sky high. It's going to
Fatty
cost us a lot of
liver.
money. Fatty liver. We're literally killing ourselves. The most prosperous country with so much food. We're killing ourselves with the food we
Yes,
have.
yeah. And also, you know, it's not just carrying too much fat and all the health issues that are related to that. Diabetes, cardiovascular issues, even Alzheimer's disease is now
And some
somewhat
cancers.
related to, yes. But it's also your ability to function, your ability to work. I mean, when people get on the sugar detox, they are a new person. Their energy, their brain power, their ability to focus. They say, oh my God, I didn't realize I was kind of a zombie on all this sugar. So your performance is, and also your expectation for a long, productive life. I want to be able to run when I'm 90.
Right.
You know?
And why not?
So
if you have this plan.
that's my plan. That's my
That's the plan.
vision.
Well,
So, you know, I'm inspired by my family. On my family, people live as centenarians, but they were very, very active.
Right.
So
Because the culture here also doesn't help. There's no public transportation that is never going to
We're
leave
talking about
you.
the Princeton area.
Yeah, they are never going to leave you at the door where you want to go, but you will have to walk. So that doesn't exist here. The people want to park right in front. They don't. Everybody's in the car.
It's convenience before anything else.
Right. Everything takes too. I mean, you take too long to get from one place to the other. Then everybody's stressed out.
I noticed
It's
too.
a combination
This is
of
my soapbox. You know, I really started the CogniDiet, and I do other things with brain health and so forth, because it's mostly women, but I want really people to take charge of their health and their brain health.
But you're also showing them a way.
I'm
not
helping
alone.
because if you don't take care of yourself, nobody else. You know, you can find somebody to cut your grass, clean your house, do your finance, even teach your kids or take care of your kids. But nobody's going to take care of your house.
No.
You have to take care of it. And you have to take the time to do it. You have to take the time to exercise. You have to take the time to cook or to eat healthy, because what we eat, we are what we eat and what we do. Our body is, you know, a representation of our lifestyle.
I have I know a person who is who exercise and is disciplined. She does it, and she eats as healthy as possible, and she hardly ever eats out. But with the changes that we women experience, you know, it seems that the hormones play a big part. That. So what do we tell people, women particularly, middle-aged women, when all these horrible health process starts?
So first of all, I have hope, because I have hope for you girls, because when I did my clinical trial, the average age was 56, 40 women. So that was also, I have to say, courageous to do a clinical trial with 56-year-old women, because it's more difficult to lose weight as we age. And I had the biggest losers in the trial were women in their 70s.
Wow.
So my message is never
It's
too
never too
late,
Wow.
okay?
Right.
But what happens is that when we get menopause, our hormones are working against us. The fact that we're losing everything, estrogen, progesterone, even testosterone. So this affects our muscle mass. We lose muscle mass, so we have to be very disciplined at preserving or building our muscle mass. A lot of women do only cardio. They don't pay attention. I have a lot of skinny fat on my special scales. They look good, but they have no muscle mass. So that's important. And at least 2 to 3 times a week, you should do strength training, not just cardio. The other,
build the bone density.
also. The other advice is that, I see it when I go to the gym, and it's in my book, by the way. You go on the elliptical, on your phone, or with a book, or watching TV, and you're not pushing yourself enough. You have to do high-intensity interval training, HIIT.
Yeah.
That is crucial for women once they get to a certain age.
They don't have to do it all at once, but they have to slowly get into that mode.
You have, which is the hit is that you go extremely high to your maximum heart rate that you can calculate for 30 seconds, 1 minute, and then you slow down for 2 or 3 minutes.
Almost like in sports, interval sprinting
Yes.
we used to do. Right.
That is really, it's going to boost and accelerate the burning of your fat. And it's going to continue for 24
This is proven.
hours.
This is proven.
This is
empirically.
absolutely proven. Okay, but when you do your hit, you have to be at the point where you are red in the face, you cannot speak, you just want it to stop. And I have taught a lot of my clients how to do it, and 90% of them were not doing it right. Okay, so I said strength training, hit, and also, of course, diminish your portion.
Slowly diminish the
diminishes
amount,
your portions, and avoid sugar at all costs.
We have to start wrapping up, though.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I want more questions. What is the time to start this? Because sometimes this is my opinion in general. When kids are growing up, the food here is not really helping. We discussed that already. But then there are the extremes here also, that they want everything super healthy, and then everything has to be organic, everything has to be whole wheat, everything has to be gluten-free, and then the kids get crazy that way. Anyhow, they are going to be overweight kids.
Yeah, because
When can they start, or they should just finish their growth and then look into that? Because they also have so tell me about that, because we see kids are overweight, but we see a teenager that looks fine, as you said, but maybe is eating wrongly. And then, so when is that she should start some sort of education like that without going crazy?
The sooner the better. I think it should start with the parents, with their kids. But on this program, I have had 18-year-old young ladies. But the people who come to this program are more people who have tried everything and has failed, and they know something has to change. When you're 18, you're very impatient. But the good news, you can lose weight quickly.
Right, exactly. Right.
The only problem, you get older, it takes more time to rewire
longer.
your brain, but it's feasible because, we did it in the clinical trial. I mean, the average weight loss was 12 pounds and the maximum was 33. I've published this data. It's been presented at the American College of Nutrition, the American Society for Nutrition. So this is it was a very serious trial. So the methodology works. And one last word, also self-love. You have to help people to love themselves, because if you don't love yourself, it's really going to get into your way to transform, because you're starting from a negative point. And I'm trying to put everybody on positive starting block, and then jumpstart from there.
Well, now say to the camera, love your website, how they can reach you, and what else they can do.
Yes, the book where the book can be
so
bought
my
and all
program is called the CogniDiet. You can get the book on Amazon.com, so you can follow it, 12 chapters. I heard people are doing great with it. But you can also follow my program, via my website, where you can be with me once a week, and we do all the chapters one after the other, and we're starting in January. And I have a second book that was just published at the end of December, which is a companion book, which goes with this one, where I offer 12 weeks times 7 days a week, 84 experiments to rewire your brain that have to do with nutrition, exercise, self-love, emotions, mindfulness, and Zen life, avoiding stress, and simplifying your life. So 7 themes, 7 days of the week. And my website is www.CogniDiet.com, and I have everything, the Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, you name it.
I'm going to go on it. So contact her and start changing your life. We'll be right back. We're getting
Veronique Cardon.
I even like that accent when she speaks, French accent. It goes with it. It sounds good. She has a good thing going about cognitive behavior, diet, portion, and she's had a lot of success. And now we're bringing a return. This is your third time on Breezin with Bierman.
Or more.
This is Jennifer, with the very famous Jennifer Weiss, with Peter Vronsky, who is writer of the New York Times bestseller, Sons of Cain, The History of Serial Killers from the Stone Age to the Present. Fascinating topic. It's all over the media these days, serial killers and everything.
It is indeed. Thanks for having us on, Adam.
Well, let's just do a quick catch-up here. For those who didn't know, maybe you want to tell the audience how we got connected about this, Richard Cottingham and your search, and then how Peter got involved? Or you want me to tell it?
Tell it.
Oh, me tell it? Fine.
Yeah,
okay.
do the rundown, the short version.
Short version, very short. Long time ago, I pumped gas. And this man named Willie Russo in Princeton owns a gas station
Oh,
now.
wow.
Anyway,
A lot of personal details.
and then he married Jennifer Weiss, who I met in improv class when you were dating. Anyway, Jennifer was adopted, found out her biological mother was an Iranian expat family, rich, but they lost everything, left with the Shah. The mom became a high-class prostitute at 23, was killed by the serial killer, the butcher of Times Square, whatever you want to call him, Richard Cottingham. Through your investigation, you found out that where he was, he's in Trenton State Prison, you started a relationship with him. And you want, like I say, your own personal question about family, death, forgiveness and everything. A lot of things tied in.
We talk about it a lot.
Yes. And he might be your father, we don't know. Through this, Peter Vronsky, who's written this, exciting book, you have a PhD in history from the University of Toronto, as they say, you two have gotten involved. So where are we now with Richard Cottingham, the book, and everything else? Who wants to go first?
Well, it's been an amazing journey because, of course, the morning that Jennifer's mom was murdered,
1979 in New York.
In New York City, I was checking into that very same hotel and had briefly encountered Richard Cottingham, which is where my career as a historian of serial homicide began.
Because you were working for a film company. Yeah.
Absolutely no interest in serial killers. That word didn't exist in 1979. I mean, it existed in the police community, but certainly I was not aware of it and wasn't in popular culture. And so as I said, I collide with Richard Cottingham as he's fleeing the scene without knowing what he had just done, literally in the elevator doors of that hotel. And slowly I became aware of what had occurred there because, he had beheaded 2 women. One of them was Jennifer's biological mom. He set the torsos on fire, and he ran off with the heads, which had never been found. He never revealed where those heads were. And so, 40 years later, I'm writing about serial killers, having been reading about them, trying to figure out what it was in my life, in my trajectory, that made me cross paths with him. And so as I'm finishing Sons of Cain last summer, or 2 summers ago now, just as, 5 days away from pushing send.
This woman.
She is on the phone, and she introduces herself as the daughter of Dita Godarzi, who I knew that she had given up a baby 18 months before her murder, up for adoption. And always wondered, what happened to that little girl? Does she know, the fate of her mother or who her mother was? And there she was, 40 years later on the phone calling me. And Jennifer asked me to come down, help her to try to put together this narrative that Richard Cottingham has been, revealing to her in these meetings that she has been bravely taking with him. And of course, Cottingham prefers not to talk to males. He likes getting visits from women if he can. But
He's never had any other visits other than me.
Right.
From a friend. He doesn't have any other.
So what were you searching for again when you went to see him?
I wanted to know the details of his relationship with her, if it was a random killing or if he had known her. And I wanted to know what happened during the trials. I wanted to know every detail I could about what he did, not only to my mom and that unidentified woman, but other women. It just seems strange that there wasn't much info about him, and not many people knew about him. So I wanted to be a mine hunter and just seek him out and find out about him.
Even though you're dealing with a professional liar, a sociopath and stuff.
I also wanted to find my mother's skull. So if I could do that, I'd probably feel a lot better, because I wanted to find her initially. And then I found out she got killed. And it didn't sit well with me that no one found her skull. I was the only one that cared about it. So I came up out of the woodwork to say, hey, help me find the skull, old man, and you do the first dig.
And this leads to this website you told me about what's it called, New Jersey Murders or something?
NewJerseyGirlMurders.org. Because, of course, in the period that from when he was a teenager to when he got arrested at the age of about 31, 32, there are at least 36 unsolved murders in New Jersey of young women, sexual murders.
Makes a mother nervous. We have a daughter coming up.
Should.
Yeah, with women that have gone missing. And I'm sure there's more than 36. We've been able to track down 36. Some of them are suspected victims of Richard Cottingham. Some we don't know.
These are cold cases then. Still.
These are all cold cases. Richard Cottingham was convicted in 1980 for 5 homicides. 8 years ago, he confessed to a 6th one, going back to the 1960s. So we know that he has been killing at least between 1967 and 1980 when he's arrested. He claims that he's killed over 80 women in different parts of the United States.
How old is he now?
73.
It looks like
And
15.
he remembers. He's lucid.
I think his memory's pretty damn good.
So let's say if he wants, he could say who others in other states and
He
stuff like
mentioned
that.
he does well with where the bodies were left. He can help out with everywhere he left a body.
Has any of this been proven though, or they don't have the time or the resources? That was another issue.
It's time and resources is a big issue, right? Police departments are always overworked. The other problem, of course, is now these cases are getting so old that family members are passing away. And often these cases, cold cases, require family to be constantly pushing at police to investigate. And of course, as the families dissipate and people pass away, these homicides start getting moved, further to the back of the shelf.
Girls are forgotten.
Girls are forgotten. People are forgotten. So we're, I put up this website. There's a kind of interactive map showing where each homicide took place. And as I say, this is just the state of New Jersey. And people have been sending us information, helpful information, because a lot of these cases, other people have looked into them. Journalists who looked into them and just gave up, family members. So we're collecting as much data as we can
to breathe life into this.
We could bring to him. His problem is he doesn't remember the order in which he killed people, and he doesn't remember who they were. He just remembers the crime scene itself.
Mm-hmm. Quickly, though, for the audience, so before I get into your relationship with my wife, if there's anything to say, if you distill the general background of serial killers, what do they all have in common for the audience to know?
Well, I think the most common thing we have is a trauma when they're very young, and then a long history of this kind of fantasy that they nurture. The average serial killer will start around the age of 28. But their fantasies are formed sometimes as early as the age of 5. So they sometimes for 20 years they kind of gestate these fantasies and begin to take them out on the road to test the fantasies in real life until they cross that line.
And then they slowly stop. You think testosterone or something? They seem to slow down. You said.
Well, as they approach their 40s, in the case of psychopaths, now not all serial killers are psychopaths, and certainly...
A psychopath is someone who's what?
Well, a psychopath is someone who has no sense of empathy. They're kind of dead inside. They don't feel it. Right. So somebody described it as somebody who knows the lyrics but not the music. But again, not all psychopaths are serial killers, and not all serial killers are psychopaths. But that's a big part of it. Obviously, a lack of a sense of remorse, lack of a sense of guilt, the need to live double lives, the need for excitement, all these things, the need for danger, for taking risks, all these things characterize serial killers.
Wow. What about you two? Well, do you have questions?
No, I'm listening.
Yeah, but what about you? So, what do you think of? What are you two getting from each other? And where's this going from? I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Well, I think Jennifer, it's almost kind of on the mythical level, right? I mean, she's looking for her mother's severed head. I mean, you're talking about like a Greek tragic story that is biblical in its scale, and he's revealed to her where there's two heads there, where those heads are buried, and we've met with police authorities. They've taken us out to the scene, and so they've surveyed the scene. What happens next, we don't know yet, because now certainly the frontline detectives, they need to go to their bosses. One of the problems here is...
Can we mention those special mushrooms they found at the scene where we believe the heads are buried? There's special mushrooms that only come up when there's decomposition in the soil. So that was
they were pretty skeptical until we went to the actual scene. And of course, he had described it in an email that he had written to Jennifer. And I'm not, a horticulturalist, but he had described a certain type of plant that the detective immediately knew. And he points out, look,
there it is.
There's that plant that he described.
So they have not done any digging or anything yet?
Not yet, no.
And when was that?
And that's going to...
4 weeks ago we met
okay,
with...
recently.
Yeah,
okay.
so...
Bergen County in New York City?
Both.
Both, yeah. So there are some interjurisdictional issues, of course. Now they need to go to the bosses, because to dig, that's going to take up a lot of resources. And of course the problem is in the case of her mother, it's not a cold case anymore. He's sitting in Trenton Penitentiary doing his time for that murder. So it's not like they need these heads.
But educationally, I thought it would be a good idea for kids, students of forensics, criminology majors, people interested. Educationally, it would be great to gather some students together who would be interested in working on something current involving a
real hands-on.
And I think that would be an avenue that I'd like.
It's not for everyone, though. Some people can't handle it. We'll see. Yeah.
Some people go to school though, and
just for that.
The Arch Street project at Rutgers, for instance, I was going to reach out to that woman because it's just finding like-minded individuals who would be interested. It's a specific.
Yeah, and it's a skill, and it's important.
Just the technical problems here.
And it's important.
The technical problems are that the heads have been there 39 years. So
I was going to ask about that. In what condition are you going to find those heads?
Well, they're in a vinyl bag. So all the biological material is there. Vinyl is not biodegradable.
4 hands.
2 heads and severed hands. Two pairs
of the vinyl is going to be
hands.
there, definitely.
And handcuffs.
Maybe he threw handcuffs in there as well.
He said they're definitely in there.
You said definitely?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. So the problem is, of course, if you're going to use, for example, if you're going to deploy dogs, you need a special kind of dog. This isn't a dog that is seeking out a fresh cadaver. You need historical dogs that are used, for example, to find MIAs in the Pacific. Dogs can actually scent a trace of a corpse from 22,000 years ago.
Wow! So
they found in archaeological on stone.
Okay.
So, but you need the right kind of dog, and so certainly I know that authorities won't have those dogs. Those dogs have to be brought in.
So you think that they are taking longer because, as he's already serving in jail, there's no the rush to find the criminal?
There's current killers out there killing right now. Crimes happening right now that are current, that are really important, and I understand that. That's why I thought students would be a really good avenue.
What about you, Jennifer? What about you? The fact some people will say it's ghoulish. It's a weird fat quest. What do you
It was so hard to live with the story and having to tell it and having to use words like, decapitation and serial killer and prostitute and 42nd Street and wigs and secret lives and second names.
But does it define your life or something? Or why? Did
No,
you
but
feel
it's
it defined your life?
intriguing because right now there's shows called specifically Mindhunters. People have
Right.
told me, you got to watch this. This is what you're doing right now. And
Oh, I see.
I said, I don't watch TV since 2006. I do my own thing. I do art. I've got the kids.
Right.
I kind of just do my music and my art and deal with the kids.
What about Rich Cottingham? Now, you thought maybe he could be your father. Is
Yes.
that another freak out to you? Is he? What's going on with that?
Well, the DNA test that will reveal that will be in the book.
Oh,
upcoming,
another
so
book on this. Which book?
It's
Coming up.
The next book.
Oh, okay.
When is it
So
coming out?
as you know, my book ends. The last chapter
It's about
is
Jen.
with Jennifer, and of course.
And when is that book coming out?
So I hope as early as that I'll turn in the manuscript this September. So next year.
Serial killers
And-
need hugs too.
And what is the name of the
Right now,
new book?
the working title right now is Raptor: The Life and Crimes of Richard Cottingham and a daughter's quest for her mother's severed head.
And then you started that Facebook, Serial Killers Need Hugs Too. I kind of like, I mean, I'm kind of bizarre too, you know, that dark sense of humor I always liked about you.
it takes some time. It's something you don't really want to swallow. You don't want to hug a serial killer, and I really didn't want to hug him, but it was easy because he's in a wheelchair, incarcerated with dentures, and
yeah, it's a weird
he's 73.
thing. He's a monster, still is, but when you see him, he's Kris Kringle.
He's an old bad Santa,
Right, basically.
and I just had to get rid of the fear and face him myself.
And that helped you personally.
Yeah.
in some
And
ways.
so you don't feel any hatred or anything against him because of what he did?
Not at that current time, not now. I
No.
did. I carried hatred for him for many, many years.
So since you met him, you stopped hating him?
yes, I forgave him in
You forgave him.
2016.
Okay.
That's pretty hard. But I mean, whether he can control himself or not, he just destroyed lives.
Right.
He's heinous
Well,
person.
But when it came to me, I couldn't sleep
Oh.
at night because I was scared that someone was going to kill me, and I thought it might have been Richard. So I wanted to eliminate. I stayed up many nights with the lights on. I was scared.
Even though you knew he was in prison.
Even though I knew he was in prison.
This just overtook you,
what
this
we
paranoia.
spoke about earlier about you should warn your daughter about, everyone should have the fear that they might get killed because there's so many killers out there killing. So don't
Really?
think you're not gonna.
Are we exaggerating though? I mean, they're out there, but the chances are low. I don't want to set up.
I wouldn't say so. I think they're greater now.
Well, statistically, serial killers are very rare, and we're living in a moment where, certainly violence is on the downside,
Homicides are
murders
down.
are down,
But we have just
serial
24/7 media.
homicides are down, but bad things always happen.
Right.
Yeah.
You should always be
throughout
wary.
history.
Right.
It's always that fear that people have, and it's this kind of intrinsic fear, I think.
Of course, of the
Primordial
unknown.
fear
I
of the
killed
unknown.
that fear
Yeah.
when I approached him, and I made it known that he's an approachable monster. And if you are the child of a victim and you feel that you want answers, it's always good to just go
Go to the
right
source.
there and say,
Right.
what happened?
So it's kind of counterintuitive. Go to the source.
Yeah.
And it helped
And
you.
and now I can finish this chapter.
Now, and this is something that they cannot avoid, they cannot stop doing. This
It's an addiction.
is an addiction.
It's an addiction.
he said he couldn't go 2 weeks without something happening.
And the
And-
compartmentalization was crazy. He had a wife and kids, and no one suspected
And
anything normal.
where is his wife and where are these kids?
I don't talk about the family.
You give them the
Only because
privacy.
it's so traumatic to what happened to them that
I would
there's no
imagine.
words.
They are divorced.
There's no words.
You find out your husband was just this other person that you never knew, and he was masquerading as a family member, as a lover, as a father.
It's
I asked that
devastating.
question of another wife, Marina Oswald. I asked her about Lee Harvey Oswald. And
Oh, you met her? Oh, okay.
yeah, her comment was the wife is always the last to know.
Interesting. That's so interesting, though, because my wife probably knows everything, because she sees me all the time. She's right. I don't know if I could get away with it, but I guess you're a master manipulator when you're a killer.
I think that's very suspicious that you're now bringing that up.
No, but really, though, you said you get to know each other, right? But I guess a master manipulator still gets away
Absolutely.
with it.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Not only did he have a wife and children, he also had two different mistresses at the same
that
time.
he wasn't hurting.
Right, he treated them like mistresses. I mean, that would be
And
hard
he was
enough, you think.
juggling. He
You
was-
think having a mistress, having an affair,
And then
having
he
a job.
had plenty of prostitute friends that he'll to this day say, I had a lot of friends that were were hookers.
Wow.
So, and he didn't kill the lovers because that could be an excuse. Well, you know, I have
that's your mother.
I have 2 affairs and I have a wife and children. I'd rather get rid of them.
His mistresses testified in court in his defense, saying that he was very sweet, romantic, that absolutely, there was nothing kinky about him or violent.
That's something that intrigued me as well. I wanted to know psychologically what was wrong with him. I didn't see anyone make any prognosis, and I wanted to know, do you have a double life? Do you have what is your disorder, man?
But to allow him to do that and just close the door to one life, go to another one, and go to another one. It's just these extremes are...
Yeah, it's either that or he only has one life, and all the other lives are like these fake satellites.
But he plays it well.
sends up.
But he plays it well,
Played
though.
it very well.
Right? And there's no remorse, there's no guilt, there's no freaking out.
A lot of men still do this, and there's some women who do this, have a secret life after their 9-to-5 life. And some of them put on wigs, and some of them, I'm not saying...
It doesn't have to be all sexual, but they do different things, right?
Yeah.
Like looking for Mr. Goodbar was kind of like that with the famous Richard Gere and stuff. We were discussing it in the green room, too. Maybe the stress, of their ordinary life sometimes drives them to want something else.
The boredom of it, the stress of it,
Right.
the heavy weight that you carry, kids, house, mortgage. Wouldn't it be great to be free?
Also, during
Would
the
it be
time...
good to kill somebody?
During the time when...
Most people don't kill people, though.
During the time when Richard was actively killing, he was leaving work and seeing women in collars in the windows on 42nd Street.
Yeah, I remember that time in
And
New
that's
York,
a scary
yeah.
thing for
Yeah.
a gentleman to fight those impulses to want to do sexual things when these women are in collars in the windows. He's watching them. He's seeing women on the street say, hey, I'll do whatever you want for $50.
Well, you're not, but my point is, this is when, I'm going to segue a little bit, then you get some, for lack of a better word, feminists who go, that's why you have to outlaw pornography. But most people see this and don't do what Richard Cottingham does. They try to draw...
If you hashtag BDSM on Instagram, you'll see 50,000 people that like what Richie likes. And that's...
But they don't kill people, I mean.
How do you know that?
Oh, I don't, well, I think it would come out eventually. I mean, there'd be a lot more murder, so...
Well, I think people are hiding bodies better.
Oh, my God. I don't. Yeah, hey, you're in this more than I couldn't say, but what do you think?
I'm going to say that our monsters are serial killers, and that, as I write in Sons of Cain, literally werewolves were serial killers. The mythology of the werewolf
it's in our DNA.
comes from from that. We couldn't imagine humans doing that, and so we invent these mythological creatures, these werewolves, when actually they were human beings. And of course, there was no pornography at that time. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of things in our culture that serial killers use to script their fantasies. Not just necessarily pornography, but for example, there were all these men's adventure magazines, true detective magazines that were, sold where Time magazine and Ladies' Home and Journal was sold. Those inspired serial killers. They got not their ideas, but how to express their fantasies and script the end to what they feel to do, comes from that kind of literature, comes from our culture. We essentially teach our serial killers what the fantasy is.
Because it's out there and they can grab it.
Yeah, in the way that Jack the Ripper was inspired by Victorian-era pornography.
Right. And the press, and he had the press to play to and
Press,
everything.
yeah.
Well, and what's the future like? We have the book. What else is going on? Tell the camera. Oh, should I hold the book?
So indeed, we're working on, as I say, recovering the heads and reuniting the heads with the torsos. There's a book deal for Jennifer's story and kind of a definitive history that Richard Cottingham has agreed to share.
And the book's available. Let's give the market. We have a marketing side to this.
Yeah.
The book's, where do you get the book? The websites? Anything else? Facebook?
Sons of Cain is available everywhere. It's in Labyrinth Books here in Princeton, Barnes & Noble, it's on Amazon. So wherever books are sold.
It was reviewed in the New York Times and everything.
Yeah, that was a great break for
Rolling
me as an
Stone.
author.
Rolling Stone interview.
Why we don't have that book?
Well, I guess we'll get it now. I know. I told you. And what about you, Jennifer? The web. Besides working with Peter, you're doing the website. You still have the Facebook page. Serial Killers Need
Yeah,
Hugs. What
after
else?
we finish with this, I will
We
Do something
reevaluate.
else really extreme and cool.
Okay.
I didn't have a fixation on killers. It's
This will be
just-
a hard
I
act
had a
to
fixation
follow.
on finding about who my mother was. That was
Yeah, I know, but it just opened up a lot of evidence.
Right.
Well, you've always been curious. You've always
yeah.
been,
That's why I can't
and
wait
you
for it to
also-
be over because it was really weird to
And
deal
also,
with.
you're breathtakingly, you're very honest and open, and you took this journey, and it's added to another path to it with
Yeah.
Peter and everything. But also, might sounding crass, make some money off it too. I'm serious, though. Make a living, make a love.
Absolutely, and it's a story to tell.
Be a
And
story,
I think
right.
guys like me write books to essentially tell stories.
Right,
And
it's part
this
of it.
is an amazing
I'd love
story.
to do something for the kids of incarcerated parents, and
Right.
I think it's great to just teach simple stuff like forgiveness and children who've had to deal with trauma. Maybe art therapy. I'd love to do stuff with the
Gotcha.
kids.
So it's a segue into that. That's
Yeah.
what I mean. Right. And we have a lot of that. Unfortunately, I work sometimes in Trenton, and everyone knows someone who got killed in Trenton. I mean, these are people who've been traumatized, kids young ages, or
Right.
their dads are gone or something, either in prison or which is almost like death because they don't see them.
Well,
or
the
get
scary
killed.
part is, of course, if trauma is the key to a serial killer, to a child 20 years later becoming a serial killer, those
I'm reading a book
kids,
that is called.
that you're encountering right now.
Who are getting traumatized. They're getting
yeah.
molested. They're seeing loved ones killed. There's no
Now,
stability.
What happens to them 20 years later? Are these the next wave of serial killers to come?
And not even serial killers, because I think they're rare, but yeah, they do act out in antisocial ways that
Yeah.
don't benefit anybody. It's
I'm
scary.
reading a book that is called The Pathology of Evil. It's about Hitler, but I'm just in chapter number 3.
Okay,
But it started with his
youth.
grandparent, the father, and all that. So I'm just starting.
So in the last 20 seconds, what are my problems? No.
Where do I start?
Thank you for having us back, though.
Oh, Jennifer, you're always welcome back, and I'm
Thank you.
glad that Willie got to you. And Peter, I'm glad to finally meet you. I heard a lot about you.
for
And hopefully you'll
having
come
us
back
on.
in another year, and we'll see what the sequel, the next book again is.
Yes, the next
Raptor.
book.
Raptor. We'll check it out, and that has been Peter Vronsky and
He
Jennifer
has
Weiss.
other books too.
Thanks.
And this has been another amazing Breezing with Bierman. My wife's about to steal your book, but she's not a serial killer, but she'll take your book.
I'm a serial book stealer.
Yeah. And
Serial
we'll see you next
killers
month.
And female serial killers.